The year was 1983. The world didn't end with a bang, but with a glitch. A stray solar flare tripped a Soviet early warning satellite over North Dakota. To the technicians in the Serpukov 15 bunker, it looked like 5 Minuteman missiles were screaming toward Moscow. In this timeline, the protocol was followed. The red telephone stayed silent, and the silos opened. The first hour, the silent flash. The war didn't start with soldiers. It started with physics. High-altitude nuclear bursts created electromagnetic pulses, EMP, that fried the power grids of both nations. In New York, the subways ground to a halt in pitch darkness. In Moscow, the streetlights flickered and died as the Kremlin went to emergency generators. The result? Communication was severed. Commanders on both sides were suddenly blind, leading to the tragic assumption that the worst had already happened. The conventional front, the Fulda Gap. As the clouds of the first exchanges settled, the second phase began in West Germany. This was the war the generals had rehearsed for decades. The Fulda Gap, a lowland corridor perfect for tanks, became the most violent place on Earth. Thousands of Soviet T-80 tanks surged across the border, met by American M1 Abrams and A-10 Warthogs. "We weren't fighting for democracy or communism anymore," wrote Corporal Elias Thorne in his diary. "We were just fighting for the next 100 yards of charred German soil." The sky was a permanent shade of bruised purple from the smoke. NATO forces, though outnumbered, used superior night vision technology to pick off Soviet columns in the dark. But the steamroller of the Red Army was relentless, pushing toward the Rhine. The Hidden War, the GI-UK Gap. While the tanks clashed in Europe, a silent, deadly hunt occurred in the North Atlantic. The GI-UK Gap, Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom, was the gateway for Soviet submarines to reach the US East Coast. US Navy destroyers dropped sonar buoys into the icy water, listening for the ping of a Typhoon-class sub. If the Soviets broke through, they could cut off the supply lines from America to Europe. If the Americans held, the Soviet army in Germany would eventually run out of fuel and bread. The turning point, the winter of '84. By the time the snow began to fall, the world was unrecognizable. Both governments had moved to underground bunkers, the US to Mount Weather and the Soviets to Yamantau Mountain. The war didn't end with a treaty,